the transformative power of self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness stands as one of the most profound and liberating journeys a person can embark upon. It is often the case that past actions, whether born out of pain, regret, or impulsivity, continue to cast long shadows over the present. Yet, it is essential to recognize that while the past shapes us, it does not define us. True healing begins when this truth is embraced. The weight of guilt. Consider the story of a man who carried the weight of a tragic act for years. In a moment of intense emotion, driven by fury after discovering an affair between his brother and his wife, he committed an irreversible act. He killed his brother, at the time, consumed by rage and despair. The decision seemed beyond his control. However, as time passed, the gravity of his actions settled deeply into his conscience. Despite outward changes in his life, moving to a new country, remarrying, starting a family, and becoming a force for good in his community, the guilt remained. He believed himself forever condemned, unable to escape the burden of his past. This sense of being trapped by history is not uncommon. Many carry similar burdens, convinced that their mistakes render them unworthy of peace or redemption. But what if the key to liberation lies in understanding the nature of transformation? What if the ability to forgive oneself could unlock a path toward freedom? Guilt serves a purpose. It reminds individuals of their humanity and moral compass. However, when guilt becomes a perpetual anchor, it prevents growth and stifles the potential for renewal. To move forward, one must confront the weight of guilt with courage and clarity. The science of change, a new perspective. In exploring the concept of self-forgiveness, it becomes clear that humans are inherently capable of change on a biological level. Every cell in the body undergoes renewal approximately every 11 months. This means that physically, the individual today is entirely different from the person they were years ago. Beyond biology, personal growth occurs on mental and spiritual levels as well. The man in question had evolved significantly since the tragic event. Through reflection, effort, and compassion, he had transformed into someone unrecognizable from the version of himself that acted out of anger, compassion, replaced bitterness. Kindness supplanted hostility. The person who committed the crime no longer existed, yet guilt clung to him because he identified with an outdated version of himself. By holding on to the belief that he was still the same person who made the mistake, he prevented himself from fully embracing the reality of his transformation. Letting go of this identification opened the door to freedom. This principle applies universally. Every human being possesses the capacity for reinvention. Mistakes, no matter how grave, do not erase the potential for positive change. Recognizing this truth allows individuals to step out of the shadow of their former selves and embrace the person they have become. Releasing the burden. Understanding that the past self no longer exists allows for a powerful shift. When viewed through this lens, guilt loses its grip. Instead of punishing oneself endlessly, for something done by a former version of the self, forgiveness becomes possible. For the man in the story, this realization brought immense relief. He came to see that he was not condemning himself for the act itself, but for clinging to the identity associated with it. Once he acknowledged that the old version of himself, the one driven by rage and despair, was gone, he could release the weight he had carried for so long. With this release came a profound sense of peace and wholeness. Letting go of guilt requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands emotional surrender. It involves acknowledging the pain caused, accepting responsibility, and choosing to focus on the present rather than dwelling in the past. This process is neither quick nor easy, but it is deeply rewarding. A universal lesson, embracing transformation. This journey underscores a universal truth. No matter how grave the mistake, human beings possess an extraordinary capacity for transformation. Self-forgiveness is the bridge that connects the past to the present, allowing individuals to step into a future unburdened by shame or regret. To forgive oneself is not to dismiss accountability or responsibility. Rather, it is to acknowledge that growth has occurred and that the person of today is fundamentally different from the person of yesterday. By releasing guilt, space is created for healing, renewal, and the pursuit of a meaningful life. Self-forgiveness also teaches humility. It acknowledges that everyone makes mistakes and that perfection is an unattainable standard. By forgiving oneself, individuals model grace and compassion, qualities that ripple outward and inspire others to do the same. Steps toward self-forgiveness. While the path to self-forgiveness may vary for each individual, certain principles remain universal. Acknowledge the past. Recognize the harm caused without minimizing or excusing it. Acceptance is the first step toward healing. Denial only prolongs suffering, while honesty creates a foundation for growth. Separate identity from action. Understand that the person who committed the act is distinct from the person seeking forgiveness. Growth and change are evidence of this separation. Reflect on how far you've come and celebrate your evolution. Practice compassion. Extend the same empathy and understanding to yourself that would be offered to another struggling with regret. Would you judge a loved one as harshly as you judge yourself? Likely not. Treat yourself with kindness. Focus on growth. Celebrate the ways in which personal evolution has taken place. Reflect on contributions to others and efforts toward positive change. Recognize that every day offers an opportunity to live differently. Let go of judgment. Release the need to continually punish yourself. Trust in the possibility of redemption and renewal. Remember that holding on to guilt serves no constructive purpose. It only keeps you tethered to the past. Seek support. Sometimes, self-forgiveness requires external guidance. Talking to a trusted friend, counselor, or spiritual advisor can provide perspective and encouragement during difficult times. Commit to positive action. Channel regret into meaningful action. Use your experiences to help others, volunteer in your community, or engage in activities that align with your values. Contributing positively reinforces the belief that you are worthy of forgiveness. The freedom of forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is not merely about letting go of guilt. It is about reclaiming agency over one's life. By forgiving, individuals break free from the chains of the past and open themselves to a future filled with possibilities. They learn that the past does not dictate the present, and that within every moment lies the opportunity for renewal. Ultimately, self-forgiveness is an act of courage, a declaration that despite past errors, one deserves peace, love, and happiness. It is a reminder that humanity is defined not by its failures, but by its capacity to rise above them. As the story illustrates, transformation is always within reach. By choosing to forgive, individuals step into a life of wholeness, where the shadows of the past no longer obscure the light of the present. Self-forgiveness is not just a gift to oneself, it is a gift to the world, as it inspires others to believe in the power of redemption and the boundless potential for change.